What's up? Welcome back. I wanted to talk about how our minds are ultimately what gets us killed. I made a video recently saying that our mind, or don't be a slave to your thoughts, right? And I didn't realize that thoughts also carry a lot more things. Our mind carries so much things. Carries patterns, images, cycles, emotions, thoughts. You get my idea. And I've been recently noticing a lot of our lives, my life, has been sort of validated, and the worth of it is depicted on outside things, whether it's YouTube, whether it's my success in my coaching, whether it's how good of a friend I am, or whatever it is, right? Our mind gets us wrapped up in thoughts and images and labels that we need to hold up to, or else we lose a sense of our identity. All right. Now I'm saying a whole bunch of nothing. Let me give you a prime example of what I'm talking about. So this is a little personal, but recently I ended things with this one girl, and it was like we were talking for a little while, and I didn't really feel that connection inside, right? But constantly inside of my head, I kept feeling that needing of validation from my friends or other people. And I noticed when those validating thoughts came, I lost a lot of interest in the girl because she sort of triggered that insecurity, right? It was her being the trigger. Now, of course, one thing I'm a big advocate on is that nothing outside of us can ever make us feel anything inside. We will just, it's only a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. So she didn't trigger that emotion, that insecurity. It was me. And that validation I kept seeking from other people was something that was like very, very deeply rooted. And it's something that kept me inside my mind. And so recently I've been in this in this sort of plan to become a lot more present, much more often than I have been. I've always known that the present moment, the stillness, is where you can find God, where you can find peace. But I never really took that into account when going through day-to-day circumstances, or when I find myself thinking about things that could happen, or what should have happened, or this, that, and the sort. And so, what I'm trying to say, my mind is what was ultimately holding me back from reaching my truest and highest self. I went to our last hangout, right? I picked her up, we went somewhere, got some food. And before that hangout, though, I was in my head a lot. I was debating whether I should keep things going or I shouldn't. I wasn't feeling it, but maybe I should try, da 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 da. You probably can get a sense of what I'm going through. Maybe you're going through the same thing yourself. Doesn't really sound that crazy right now, but I'm sure you get it. Our minds like to think about these things and make us feel anxious because it feeds off that. Our mind slash the ego. The ego feeds off these negative emotions, these patterns, these things to get you caught up in here so you can't see and live what's right in front of you. Be here. Right now, all we have is this moment. The moment you're watching this video and the moment I'm recording this video. If I'm worried about things that are coming up or things that happened in the past, then I'm not living in what's true. I'm living in false. I'm living in the fabrication of what my mind has put an image of, you know? And a lot of times when we are in our mind, sure, we might think of cool things or good things, and I'm not saying it's bad to think about the good memories or, I don't know, appreciate what's been given to you or whatever it is. All I'm saying is that when you start feeling those negative emotions and getting inside your mind and trying to predict and control outcomes and attaching yourself to this form outside of you, is when the mind starts to get its fill. Because a lot of the times when we feel attachment towards things or attachment towards images or how we may be perceived or whatever else you may be struggling with, our mind gets that feeding off of what we are so wrapped up in. I've noticed that a lot of the times when I'm thinking, it never really helps out what happens with the thing I'm thinking about. Let's say I'm thinking about this hangout I'm about to go on in about 2 hours, right? It's with another girl. But we're there just to catch up, I hope. And a lot of my mind is just like, we used to be old friends. That's why I said catch up. Anyway, a lot of my mind is just over here like stressing. It's worrying about how other people might see me. It's worrying about what could go on in that hangout. It's worried about this, that, and everything, right? And honestly, I was so close to just canceling that hangout because I was so fearful what could happen. But yet I didn't realize that it was just inside my head. I was wondering if we're going to be able to like mush together and actually have fun, or if it's going to be the most awkward thing in the world, I'm not going to be able to enjoy it. But something that sat me down and really allowed me just to accept what is that I've committed to it. Let's just stick through it. I'm sure I'll learn something, because if it's not meant to happen, then it wouldn't have happened, or it won't be happening. You know what I mean? And it's not here right now, so let's be here. Most of the time when I had hangouts with like the past girl, like 4 hours before, 3 hours before, I'd be on my phone or watching something just to get my mind at ease. Because a lot of times we like to go watch our phone and scroll, so it won't be in our mind. And whenever we throw those things away, we tend to latch back on to what our minds are producing. And a lot of the time my mind would produce things about my ex, or produce things how people would see me, or just how she sees me, etc. She being the girl I was seeing. And yeah, you get the idea. I don't know what else to say. I won't lie. I just want you to realize that this mind really isn't your friend. A lot of times when I say that the ego is feeding off, it gets this payoff, and we secretly like that payoff. Whenever there's times where you're reminiscing on something, whether it's an old friend, an ex, or maybe an embarrassing moment happened, and it just continues to replay inside your head. No matter how much you don't like that moment, or you don't like to think about that person or that scenario, you secretly do. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't be thinking about it. You wouldn't attach yourself to those thoughts. And it might be hard to even accept. But a lot of times when I would reminisce about me and my ex, let's say, I would be like, man, I need to stop thinking about this girl. But yet I would still go in there and think about different scenarios and relive things that's already happened. And maybe even end up going back to just feeling guilty, or needing her validation, or maybe wanting to go back, or just not liking myself for the things I've done. And I realized that it's just all in my head. I'm driving in my car on a freeway, and I'm thinking about a scenario that happened 2 years ago. Why? And I feel those emotions right now. Why? Because your ego wants you to continue living in those patterns. Why? Because that's the only way it can live. So how do we get out of that? Be here. Now, those emotions, those thoughts, those patterns are always going to continually pop up. But as long as we can get out of our minds and be here, we win, quote unquote. We're back to our truest self. We're back to our higher self. And so our minds really are a pain in the ass. Of course, you can use your mind for great things. And it's hard for me to depict whether this thinking is good or this thinking is bad. Like before I made this video, I was like, all right, let's see what I should think about. And so I was thinking. But I don't know how to tell whether it's good thinking or not. So that's something for you to decide, because I'm still figuring that out myself. Our minds have, obviously our minds have created good things. Our mind created this phone. Our mind created this mic. Our mind created this hairstyle. And it can manifest, it can do crazy amounts of things. But if you can't tame it, then it begins to run your life. One thing about manifestation, little sidebar, I know I'm getting off track, but one thing about manifestation is that a lot of people like to go for the desires. Actually, I'm going to make this a separate video. I'm sorry. If you're seeing this, I'm going to try making a different video. But I hope this has helped. I hope it highlighted why it's important to get out of your mind in most times. And just to be here in this present moment. And just trust that the thoughts, the questions, the worries, the unknowingness that you do have will be answered in the present moment when the time is right. I don't know what's going to happen in an hour and a half when I see this girl or I don't see this girl. All I know is that I have now. So why should I worry? And if worry and anxiety and those fears and those overthinkingness comes back up, it's okay. I'm here. It's just my ego trying to survive. It's my ego trying to control. I'm not that ego. I'm here. Hope this helps. God bless.